The perfect project for you to get used to using something like Odesk. Put together 50 quotes, put the job up on Odesk. It's very easy for any graphic designer to do. They could knock it out in maybe an hour or two. Won't cost you that much, maybe 10, 20 bucks on Odesk. Put that up. That's easy content that you can use. Let's say you do one a week. Well, 50 of them, that's a year worth of content.
And even if you get it back from Odesk and it's not 100% right, because I'm very anal and type A, so not everything is going to be done the way I want it done when I outsource it. But if it's 80% of the way, you only have to do 20% instead of 100%. So don't get all anal about it like I do, and just get in the habit, like you said, David, get in the habit of outsourcing these types of things and get it done faster.
This is not your primary content. This is just a little piece of the pie. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's certainly not going to be as perfect or something that you're going to spend as much time on as a major blog post that you're doing, as a podcast that you're recording. But it's a good way to strengthen what you're already doing and just reinforce what you've already got. And speaking of that, number 6, repurposing, Laurel. This is a great way to strengthen what you've already got. If you've got a quality blog post, well, why not talk about it on your podcast? If you've got something that you're talking about on your podcast, why not write it up, make it into a blog post?
And I've done that. I've taken a blog post and I've turned it into a podcast episode and a short video and things like that. People like to consume your information in different ways. And you don't have to exactly repeat yourself verbatim in each of those things, but it just creates an easy way, especially when you already have it mapped out in the blog post to create a podcast or a video. That's just super simple. It's a little bit harder for me to create a podcast and then take it to a blog, but the information is still there either way that you go. That's just a really easy way to get content on your site.
And I think you can always go deeper. Red Podcast, we've got roughly 25 minutes to talk to you about a topic. Sometimes we want to go a little bit deeper, maybe into a certain section, not even the entire topic that we're talking about. Well, a blog post is great for that. Facebook post is great for that. You can bounce things off of each other, and it's not necessarily the completed repurpose that you're looking for, but it's something that's going to give you a head start. You don't have to think about new topics. How many times has that happened to you, Laurel, where you're thinking like, wow, what am I going to write about today?
Oh, like every day.
Yeah, this is going to keep you from that. Number 7, here's one that people have thought about, usually from the opposite standpoint. It's guest post. Usually when you hear the name guest post, people are thinking about writing for somebody else. But being on the receiving end of that, and I've done that on several of my blogs, it's a great way to get content when you're busy. I've got a blog at musicmarketing.com that accepts guest posts, and we have people submitting all the time trying to get on there. Here's an issue for you to think about, though. If you're going to do that, you're going to get a lot of junk. It's very good for you. If you're clear on what you want, you let people know how long the article needs to be. You let them know what it can be about. Maybe you have them give you the ideas for what they want to write about ahead of time. But if you can do those things, your percentage of great content is going to be that much better. You still are going to have to edit it, but it can sometimes be a lot quicker than if you were to do it yourself.
Again, it gets you that 80% of the way. You're still going to have to tweak their content a little. But I agree with you, David. You have to be really clear with guest posting. And I would just go on these other websites, these big websites that do accept guest posts, and look at what their guidelines and rules are for guest posts and mimic some of those, because they know what they're doing. They've gotten a lot of content and they've tweaked those rules and regulations to work for them. So go see what they're doing, and then you can start to think about what are your rules for having guests post on your site.
If you want an example of that, I mentioned musicmarketing.com. If you go to that website, there is a guest post section, and feel free to swipe my rules. Use them as your own if they work for you.
Yeah, one guy that I wrote a guest post for his blog, Even his email address that he had you send it to, usually it's just something simple like info@therblogname.com or whatever that looks like, or their name at therblogname.com. But this was your best content at therblogname.com. So even down to the email address you sent it to, it was like, we want your best content. So even little tweaks like that in your rules and regulations can be helpful to get the best material from other people.
Yeah, I have people click a button and it says, I certify that this is original content and you're the only one getting it and it hasn't been spread everywhere else and I didn't buy it elsewhere. Those are little things that you can do to make sure that you get the top quality content that you're looking for. So go to musicmarketing.com, look for the guest post section. Feel free to steal and use that listing that I've got to get myself better content than average. You still have to do the work, but like we've been talking about, it'll get you 80% of the way there, and 20 people doing that is going to be better than you doing one thing 20 times. Number 8, this is the final one on the list. Talked about it a little bit when I mentioned Odesk, is you are hiring somebody to do the work that you don't want to do, and hiring a writer is absolutely the best way to do that. I don't think Odesk is the best place for a native English-speaking writer, assuming that that's what you want. But I have had some great luck with similar services, elance.com being one of them.
Now, if you have a personality brand or you're really trying to get out your message, I don't think hiring a writer is the best way to go, but we do want to put it on here because it is an option and you can use it, and you might use it in a pinch and maybe not all the time, but that is an option for you. Although I just wouldn't do that all the time if you're trying to infuse your personality into your content and into your brand.
Agreed. If you have any questions on this episode, if you've got comments, Laurel and I are happy to answer those questions, receive your comments. And the best way to get to us is via Twitter. I'm at David Hooper, all one word. Laurel is at Laurel Staples, all one word. And of course, we are available at redpodcast.com, always open to suggestions and show ideas if you're interested in submitting those. Speaking of submitting, you know what would be really helpful, Laurel?
What?
Reviews.
Reviews. We love reviews.
If you like this show, go to iTunes, search Red Podcast, leave us a review, leave us a rating. That will help us get the word out, reach more people, and build this community of real entrepreneurs. Laurel, any final thoughts?
Well, last time I checked on iTunes, we were at 90 or so reviews. So I'm going for that big 100 on iTunes of reviews. So if you can help us out with that, we will be extremely grateful to you.
Yeah, that would be very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Red Podcast.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.